Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Hello Redlow. It's Good Friday and a really good day for this next episode and my next guest. I am so excited for you to hear all that she has to say. You will be inspired and encouraged and realize that it is definitely never too late to fulfill your dreams and your goals. So sit back, put on those headphones, and listen in. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Hello Redlow podcast. I'm your host, Terry Mullen, and I'm so happy you're here. And there are some episodes that I get excited about, some of my guests, and actually as I'm saying that right now, I get chills. Today, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about my beautiful friend and my wonderful guest, Cindy Anderson. Welcome, Cindy. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you, Terry. I'm excited to be here as well. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. And just a little bit of background, Cindy and I both met. Our boys went to school together here in Southern California for a brief time and played basketball together. We had both just moved to California from other states, and we used to sit in the stands and talk about our dreams and writing and all these wonderful conversations that we had. And so then I moved away and our paths have crossed again. And I'm just so excited to share Cindy's story with you and have her share her story and what she's doing. She's written a couple books. And so we're just going to kind of talk about this journey of transition, becoming an empty nester, still pursuing dreams and things that matter in your life. And so let's dive in. Let's kind of start with you moving to California, why you moved, you gave up a career. So let's just share that for listeners. I think with women, we do that, and you have a great story. So let's just kind of dive into that.
Thanks, Terry. Well, we have three children. Two of them are grown women who live in Chicago area. And then our son is in college now. He's a senior this year. And during the growing up times of our kids, I was a high school French teacher, and I taught French for almost 28 years. And we moved from Chicago out to Connecticut, and I continued to teach. And I enjoyed teaching so much. I was a leader. I had been a department chair. I was on committees. One of our high schools was moving from the traditional schedule to a block schedule. And so I was involved in changing over from 50 minutes, 8 classes a day to 4 classes a day of 90 minutes, and how that affected subjects like math and foreign language, where you have those skills that need to translate from year to year or course to course. So I was just a leader doing those things. And then when we moved to Connecticut, our school was one of the leaders in what they call being a professional learning community, a PLC, where we would start late in the morning, one day a week, and the teachers would all meet and get on the same page with curriculum and standards and outcomes and all those kinds of things. And since we were one of the top schools that did that in the country, we held a national convention at our school. And then our school's principal was pretty instrumental in the whole development of that. And so he took me to principal conventions and all sorts of things. But I was always interested in engaging my students. So we did a lot of group work, and we did a lot of travel. We traveled to France, and I did about 10 student trips to France over spring breaks with my husband. He would come with me. So it was a really enriching part of teaching, expanding the horizons of students. And we would go to plays, to see like Les Mis or Phantom of the Opera, and French restaurants and art museums and French clubs where we would have movie nights in French, and we would have French cooking lessons at night. So I was fully engrossed in my career and as being a mom and a wife to a busy businessman who traveled a lot. So I was going 150 miles an hour all the time. And when we left Connecticut, we moved to Kansas, where my husband had a new opportunity. And I decided I wasn't going to really recertify in Kansas. We didn't know how long we were going to be there. it was the first time I really hadn't worked for my whole life up until that point. And we wanted to get a dog. We had never had a dog. I had never had a dog. So that was the time when we got our first dog named Remi, which is short for Remigio.
Oh, I love it.
Which is Portuguese for oarsman. Remi is a Portuguese water dog. And so we had Remi and we had our son at home. Our girls were in college. So I still had Eric, our son, to interact with and do things with. I got involved in his school. But when I arrived to California, I was still kind of trying to figure out my purpose. I was at a time in my life where I had done teaching. I loved it, but I really didn't want to recertify in California and jump through all the hoops that we needed to do to be a teacher here. And so I started tutoring. I started using my gifts to tutor. I had a couple students that I would tutor at their homes. And then I even had an adult woman who was a banker, and she came to my house and we had French lessons on Thursday afternoon.
Wow.
And we did a little cooking lesson and we did some conversation. And then she ended up actually going to Paris on her own to fulfill her dream of traveling. And she was, I knew that was her goal. And so we did a lot of conversational work so that she was able to navigate, from the Charles de Gaulle airport to get to Paris, and how to navigate the airport to find the train, and where to stay, and how to, order in restaurants, and where to go. And so we just had so much fun. And so I was really fulfilled by that too, because I was still inspiring people to learn about another culture. So after that, though, I continued to, be walking Remi. And I started seeing images in nature that I just was amazed by the beauty around me, coming from the Midwest and then moving to different parts of the country. I've been in several different parts of our country, and there's such unique beauty in all of the areas that I've lived. But California was just stunning. My senses were just really awakened by the blueness of the sky and the perpetual flowers that were always blooming and such vibrant colors. And living in Southern California reminds us a lot of living in the south of France. And so that really piqued my interest. The Provence area in the southern part of France, the light is very much the same. The climate here is a Mediterranean climate. So I felt like I was kind of living in France, and just really was attuned to nature and its beauty. And so I started seeing these images. I would take a photo on my phone, and all of a sudden, like a title would come to me, and I would get this like inspiration of a life lesson in nature. And so I would write those in my notes. And then I started to think about these things, and I thought, I could write a Christian devotional about what I'm seeing while I'm walking my dog Remi. And so I started writing a devotional about 10 years ago. I had like 100 different devotions written out, and not all fully developed, but the pictures and the title, and some of them I had started putting scriptures to it. But while I was in another place where I lived here in Southern California, when we met, I started going to writing conferences, and I found a writing group. And during that time, I started writing a middle grade children's novel called The Suitcase Adventures. And that's one that I'm out kind of shopping around with agents and editors right now. But again, I was trying to, when I left Connecticut, I wanted to have something to work towards that was still using my expertise in French. And so I thought, well, I always liked writing. When I was in elementary school, I loved writing mysteries and compositions and things like that. And so I thought, well, I think I'll do that. I'll write a series of books about in this family, the Dubois family. And the first protagonist, the girl that's the main character, her name is Brianna. So when Brianna's family has someone who turns 11 years old, the matriarch of the family sends them a suitcase with a ticket to go to someplace they've never been. And so Brianna's going on her adventure to Paris, and she's meeting her French grandmother. And her father passed away when she was 5, and she only met her grandmother when she came for her dad's funeral. And she doesn't really know that much about her French side of the family. So she's going by herself to Paris, and she's spending a week with her grandmother for her 11th birthday. But what happens is when Brianna gets there, Mamie, the grandmother, she is kidnapped. And so the rest of the book is about how Brianna and these 2 friends that she meets in this hotel that Mamie owns find Mamie. And Mamie had a sense that something was going to happen to her. And so she had left all these clues in peacock embossed envelopes. And she was thinking that she knew what was going to happen. And she was kind of laying breadcrumbs like in Hansel and Gretel to help Brianna find where she thought she might be going. And in the course of the novel, it's a, an adventure mystery. Kids that are reading it learn a little bit more about French history and culture and food and those kinds of things. So it's another
Wow.
thing that I've had to just influence young kids' lives into looking
Oh,
at other cultures and kind of falling in love with travel and doing things that are a little unique.
how wonderful. And you're fluent in French, aren't you?
Yes,
You speak it
we.
fluently. I have to introduce you. I have to introduce you to my friend, Catherine Gauthier she has a podcast as well called Come to France with Me, and you all need to connect. But so anyway, I remember when our boys were playing basketball together, we would sit in the stands and you were talking about the suitcase adventures. That was kind of your heartbeat. And then you had also started going on these walks, and you were telling me about, you were taking pictures of nature. It was so beautiful. You were so intrigued by it, and the scriptures were coming to your mind, and really now maybe that's what you were going to do. And so what's been so much fun for me is to come full circle and see that you actually have published My Walks with Remi. And for all those listening, it is an absolutely beautiful book. It's a devotional. It's called Devotions Inspired by Nature, Strengthen Your Faith Journey. It's beautiful. And I'm gonna let you talk about that. But when you open it up, I was really captivated that you were comparing Southern California to France. I have never been to France. And so that is just really interesting that our climate is similar and all that. But I moved away for a while, went to Texas, and coming back here for me too, I'm completely captivated by the geography in California. It really is breathtaking. And you say, when I moved to California, I was stunned by the beauty of God's creation that surrounded me on my walks with Remi. Majestic mountains stretched across the blue sky, vibrant flowers and green succulents were ever present, and the sparkling waters of the Pacific Ocean lapped against the sandy beaches beneath my feet. It was as if I had begun to notice nature for the first time. It just gives me chills. It's beautiful. So kind of share that. I mean, I really want people to take a look at this. It's just gorgeous, Cindy, and kind of share a little bit about that. Each time you went out to nature, I know you shared a little bit, you saw these things, and you talk about a redwood in there, and I shared, and I'll come back to that. But it really just ministers to your heart and soul. So kind of share that a little bit.
Yeah, well, for example, we live in the foothills, and I have the Pacific Ocean on the south side of our house and the mountain range on the north side of my house. So I'm nestled right in between the two. And I really feel that God has placed me in this specific home and in this part of California, in this particular spot in my life, for this purpose of getting out these messages of hope and encouragement to people who really need it, to have something positive to look forward to, or to look towards, to grab onto in these difficult times that we're living in. Life is hard. Despite COVID and everything else,
right?
Life just has its troubles and its worries and things. And so when Remi and I walk, we often walk by, trees and things like that I see every day. But one particular day, there's sometimes a little nudging that I feel like, look at that. And so, as an example, there's a home near us that had, on their mailbox, they had a little red flag up one day. And I'd been by that mailbox hundreds of times it's no big deal. It's a mailbox. No,
Yeah.
no exciting big revelation there. But this one day that I walked by with Remi, the Pacific Ocean had silhouetted the mailbox, and the red flag was up, and it was just a real eye-catching kind of image that I saw. And as a side note, I have a master's in French language and literature, which helped me really analyze, symbolism and things. And I also was recently trained as an art docent. And so I'm looking for images, and I'm looking at how they're positioned and things. And so I think that's another way God has used that talent that he's given me to see these kind of messages in the images I see. So going back to this mailbox, when I saw the flag up, I thought, oh, that person has mail. And then I started thinking about, how the Bible is like our mailbox, and how often do we just walk right by it? We don't open it. We don't
Right.
look for the love letters that God has written to us with his wisdom and guidance and instruction. So I wrote a devotion about that, and it's called You've Got Mail. Kind
Oh,
of
that's great.
old AOL, you've got mail kind of
Right.
voice that you hear whenever I hear those three words together. But that's an example of the kinds of things I see. Or we have some big cypress trees in our yard. Kind of title that came to me right away, it was Look Up. And so when I taught French, I often taught about architecture, French architecture, like with the cathedrals in the Middle Ages and in France, and
Yeah.
how there were so many vertical lines. The vertical lines were important because it lifted their eyes upwards. And the whole point of having big cathedrals during the Middle Ages is to glorify God. And so when you're lifting your eyes upwards, you're looking towards heaven, you're glorifying him. And so I noticed these big cypress trees, and I thought, look up. And then the mountains were right behind it, which are also these big, massive, beautiful things of creation. And so I can look to them also. And so I was just talking, thinking about how we look to those things when we need strength and encouragement, and such strong foundations as mountains. They're unmovable. And God is unchangeable, no matter what we have going on in our life, or whether we move away from him or not.
Yeah.
He's always there in the same place, in the same position. So one of the things that I do in the devotions, I have this image, and it's a full page color image. And then I have the title of the devotional or the devotion with a scripture. And then I kind of reflect on this life lesson I've kind of drawn from the images. And then there's a prayer, and then there's a reflective piece for the reader to kind of think about their own life. And for this one, with the Look Up, I talked about these vertical lines again, and how, as people are driving around looking at stoplights or chimneys or telephone poles, those strong vertical lines that you see every day, someone to think, oh, look up. Where does my help come from? We could look up, think about how God helps us, or turn to him to help us.
Right.
So those are some of the ways that I've used the images that Remi and I see when we're walking.
Oh,
And
that's wonderful.
it's been really fun. It's been really fun.
Yeah. You cut out just for a brief bit, but I think we're okay. We've got a little bit of a connection issue, but I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
I think what's really great, I was thinking as you were talking that, it's amazing too what we see, and you and I really connect on this level, because I love to be out in nature as well. It's just really healing and restorative for me. God really speaks to me when I'm out walking. And so this book just jumps out at me, but it's just amazing too what we see when we slow down, and what we can hear when we're undistracted, when we're not, when we're really present in that moment. And I think that's just what's amazing. I mean, in this time, and here we are close to Easter, when we need hope and we need to be reminded that there's hope. I mean, you do such a beautiful job that those symbols in nature, in life, when we slow down and we're not on our phone and we're not distracted, that we really can hear God. We can hear messages and the Holy Spirit that will speak to our spirit and our heart and our soul. Right. And you do an amazing job with your book. It's an easy read. It's just a pick up and read a chapter wherever you want in that moment, and kind of what ministers to you, which I think is probably the purpose of that, right?
Yes, yes. I want people to, not have to labor over very philosophical, religious treaties. This is supposed to be something that you can, look out your own window and start looking at things. And your point about slowing down, I think, is so important.
Mm,
Um, God doesn't come and knock you over the head. He
right.
kind of whispers. And so when we're still and we're quiet and we don't have our phones and we're just out walking in nature and paying attention, I think that's one of the big
Oh,
things that really has stuck with me when I'm walking with Remi. Remi will be sniffing around and he loves to sniff and see, what other dogs have been around, what other animals are here. And so it's, we take a pause and he does his sniffing and he's kind of taught me how to look. He's taught me how to just
wow.
stop and kind of look around where I am when he's doing his thing, and that's been a nice change of pace, as I mentioned at
Mm,
the beginning. I was on such a power track of,
yeah,
150 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden I was screeched to a halt at zero, it felt like.
right.
So I really have started enjoying this time that I have to be quiet and not have so much to do.
Mm,
I still have a lot of things that I do. It's
right.
just my nature to always be somewhat busy, but I have really quieted my spirit, and I spend a lot more time in silence. I don't have a radio on or music on, or I don't have a lot of things on because I'm enjoying my thinking time in this stage of life as well, and just enjoying these views that God has blessed us with. So,
Oh,
and I'm so happy that I get to share them with people who, get the book, or who follow us on our social media posts and things like that. So it's
wonderful.
definitely a blessing.
Well, and I'm going to give this to a couple friends. I have a couple friends on my mind right now. One of the things when I ordered the book that I was so excited, I think I texted you right away, because the very first page that kind of opened up to me was about Be a Redwood. It literally made me cry, because I have a very dear friend. We have this inside joke that I am her redwood and she's my aspen. And so just the characteristics of what they are, it just took my breath away. So even in that moment, God can just speak to you in just these moments, just to remind you that he's there, and he knows you. He knows every hair on your head. He knows who you are. I mean, that just jumped out at me so loud and clear. And so um, a couple things, because I know you're also getting ready now to launch book 2. Is that correct?
Yes,
Of your
it's
walks with
at,
Remi?
yes, it's at the printer right now, so I think it will be out in May. Mhm.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. And also just kind of share a little bit about that transition, trying to publish a book, because, I'm kind of in the same place. As I've shared with you, I've had several books in my heart and mind for a long time. But how did you get to that place of just getting the courage to do it, finding other people that have gone before you that did it, finding the help? How did that all kind of come about for you? Because this is a big undertaking. It's not easy to do this, and it's scary, and now, I mean, there's so much more available. You can do self-publishing. Just kind of dive into that just a tad bit about that.
Sure. Well, I had a lot of help. I mentioned I was in a writers group, and there's an organization for anybody who's interested in writing for children. It's called SCBWI, which
Okay.
stands for the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And it's an international organization. They're based out of LA, but they have conferences in LA and New York every year, but they have chapter meetings and conferences. And so each county or each region in California, in every state, really has a chapter. And so they really helped a lot with the conferences. I went to some writers' days, and that's where I met one of my critique group friends, and she invited me to come into her critique group. So as a writer, you really need a lot of support. You need people to read what you write, to encourage you, to people who have gone before you. As you mentioned, this woman had already published a children's book and won an award about it. And so I was really looking to her to kind of help lead me along, grab my hand and show me what to do, kind of a thing. And the other people in my group were also very, very helpful and encouraging. So we would meet once a week just at a restaurant in town, and we would meet and read chapters of each other's writing, and we would come and critique, offer suggestions or bring up points to consider. And that's what kind of led me along to finish the Suitcase Adventures, the first manuscript. Knowing that I had that kind of deadline, it was once a month, I think. Every month, it gave me, I would eke out another chapter to have it ready for that next meeting. And so that kind of kept me moving. And then at the writers' conferences, they often have editors or agents that will come, and you can submit what you've written to them, your first 10 pages for a critique. And so I did that a couple times and got some good feedback. And then sometimes they'll ask for your manuscript when you're done, which is where my manuscript is right now. So it gives you a little kind of way to connect with other writers or other publishers. I also found online, I did it's called Do It Yourself DIY MFA, Master of Fine Arts. And I took a lot of courses online with a woman who runs this DIY MFA. She's wonderful. Her name's Gabriela Pereira. And she goes through, the art and the craft of writing, but she also takes you through the post-writing production piece, where she talks about getting a website, how to, what you should have on your website, and how you go about publishing, your options. And she has podcasts you can listen to, and she has speakers, and she does writing summits in the summers. So she was really instrumental in really giving me the confidence to go that next step, to actually get my website up and running, and going to conferences, and, taking some of these risks that are scary. And one of the things she said that was so powerful to me as a new writer was that the thing that you're afraid of most is what you need to face, like right off the bat. Wow. So, I had never put a website together before, but I did it. I learned how to do it, and it was exciting. And I think as we get older, we go into a different season in our lives. It's so exciting, really, to learn new things and to try new things, and to embrace technology, embrace the new opportunities that happen to come your way. And it's really been a fun journey for me. And I feel like I've been using these talents of, French and technology that I used to use in teaching in now my writing, and in connecting with other people. I've been doing a couple podcasts to let people know about the book that I've done. And it's been really energizing and invigorating. And it's been really fun to just embrace this new part of our life, after the kids are gone, and my husband is still working. So I am alone a lot of the time. I really wanted to continue my own personal growth, my own intellectual stimulation, and being an art docent really helped fulfill part of that as well, and connecting with people. I think connecting with people is always so important. Terry, you and I talked about, the moves that we've made, and every time that I would make a move, I tried to look at it as a positive experience. I tried to look at, oh gosh, I get to see this new part of the country. And if we hadn't have had the experiences that we have had, I wouldn't be where I am today, So, embrace those new opportunities. It's not always easy, that's for sure. But I try to look at it as a positive experience, a positive life experience. And one of the first things that I always do when I have moved is I told you, I think I used to go to the library and get my library card. I don't know. I think you still do that. I just did that a couple of years ago when we moved here. But it's a way to connect with your community, because they often have events and things that are going on. And when I had the kids, we were looking for the summer reading programs and, those kinds of things to fill the time in the summer. And then also I would always look for a church, and the church has always been such a a powerful, positive, and encouraging place for me to meet other women, or
Mm-hmm.
meet other people in general, but
Yeah.
especially women. And it's given me, I mentioned being in leadership and teaching.
Yeah.
When I moved here to California, I was part of the leadership team in one of the churches we were going to, and that fulfilled this hole that I felt. I missed
Mm-hmm.
leading. I missed
Yeah.
being, developing activities and things for people. And so this gave me an outlet, a new outlet to do that. When I was teaching, I didn't have time to, I did go to church and I was pretty active, but
Yeah.
I didn't have the time to really delve into Bible study like I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have time because I was, running the kids around at night to their activities,
Right.
or staying up late doing my own grading papers and getting ready for the next day for teaching. So I
Yeah.
didn't really have a lot of time for my own spiritual growth.
Mm. Yeah.
My husband and I taught an adult Sunday school class. We did things like that. We sang in choir, we did those things, but going really deep, unless it was summertime, I did do things in the summer, but it all changed when I stopped teaching. It just took on a deeper role and a more important role in my life. And again, it kind of filled that intellectual void that I was feeling, I think. And so
Yeah.
I think people just need to look as they transition into new seasons of their life, at where they have been positioned, who's coming into your
Mm.
life to speak into your life or to come alongside you
Mm.
and introduce you to a new job or a new neighborhood or a new
Mm.
town or a new state or whatever is new. My father passed away about 3 years ago, and so
Oops.
he was the last parent of my husband
Oh,
and so after he passed away,
yes.
we really felt kind of like we were floating,
Yep. I've
First
heard that
Christmas,
before.
yeah, the first Christmas was really
Yeah.
different. We felt like, gosh, we've had such rich traditions in our family, and
Yeah.
our parents are no longer here. So now we step up into that
Right.
role as the new ones that continue those family traditions,
Right.
continuing those stories about our family and our who all the people were in our family and what they did, so that our kids know that family history. And
Right.
I think that's important, but that's another transition that so many of us go through, the caring for the parents, and then
Right.
not having the parents or the other important relatives that you always looked up to. And
Right.
now it kind of falls on us. And so it just creates another way, another role for us to,
Hmm.
another hat for us to wear, role to fill. And that's been important. I have, our oldest daughter has 2 children, and so we're grandparents.
I
And
know, it's so wonderful.
it's
Congratulations to
thank
that too.
you. Yeah, I was mentioning that our granddaughter is almost a year old in May, and she took her first steps today on our FaceTime. But anyway, it's just so fun to see that next generation coming up, and how important it is to, spend time with them. Even though we're
Mhm.
far away, our daughter's really good about FaceTiming and talking. And so we interact on the phone. So technology can really be great,
Yeah.
as well as frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. And I know you and I share that in common too. And this has been such a blessing for you and I to connect again because we have so much in common. My
Mhm.
kids are all over the place too. No one's close by. And so it's been so inspiring. And I know you're a really close family and stay connected. Your son plays basketball or played basketball in college as well. And just to be able to still connect with everybody
Yeah,
has been such a gift to me, and still share that because these transitions are hard. And we've given so much to everybody our whole life, obviously you, even your career, your children. And now all of a sudden when you become an empty nester, everybody's gone, they're living their life, and you think you're still young enough, and you think, what's left, what's next?
Mhm.
um, and you've been such an inspiration. I just love everything you've shared here today. And I want to make sure I put all of this in the notes, just some of the things that you've referenced,
Sure.
the DIY and where people can find you. Tell the audience where people can find you, because I'm so excited. This book, you guys, is just wonderful. It really, really is. It's a light read. It's beautiful. It's just great. So where can they reach you? Where can they buy the book? book
Yeah.
one, because book two's coming.
It is. So we have a website. It's called www.mywalkswithremi, and it's REMI.com. And on their website, there are links to where you can buy the book. You can get the book on Amazon. You can also get it through my publisher, Westbow Press. You can get it through Target or Barnes and Noble online.
I
Anywhere
didn't know that. That's awesome.
Anywhere you buy books, you can find My Walks with Remi. And so that's where you can find our information. I do a blog on the website as well. There's some videos of Remi and I walking. A couple of years ago, there were a couple friends of ours that were really facing some health difficulties, and their faith was kind of wavering a little bit as well. And so I'd been working on the written part, the written devotions, for a long time, as I mentioned, but I was one time in the shower, which it seems like I get so many good ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know
They
why.
come from the shower.
But I just felt like God nudging me and saying, Cindy, you've got all this stuff in your computer. You need to get them out to people like now. People could really benefit from some of these right now. So so that was one little nudge that I got. And then the other one was right about another day or so after I had that shower experience.
Yeah.
Remi's mom, her name was Marty, she passed away. She was 13 and like 11 months. So she was almost 14 years old. And our breeder in Wisconsin sent out a note on the Facebook group that we belong to, that, Marty had passed away. And it just touched me so much. And so I went and grabbed Remi. I remember we were outside playing, and I just went and grabbed him and gave him a hug. And I said,
Aww.
Remi, your mom passed away. And, I knew Remi doesn't know what I'm saying, but, I just felt like I needed to tell him. And then right then I realized I'm not going to have Remi forever. This time that we have together the days are numbered.
Right.
And this was about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. No, about 3 years ago. And so I started doing videos called Wednesday Walks with Remi, and I would post them on our Facebook page. And so there are about 62 videos of us walking in nature. It's where I took all the photos, and people can go and watch them on our Facebook page. So the Facebook page is My Walks with Remi. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I post pretty regularly about what Remi and I are doing, or I'll do small devotions, or still do some videos on those social media outlets as well. And so that's another place where people can find us. And the really cool part about the writing, my goal here isn't to, become a national bestseller. I mean, that would be great, but it's not why I'm writing the book. It's the whole mission behind this is for me to get the word out that God loves you. He's present in your life if you're just slowing down and listening, and to turn to him when you need help and encouragement, because he's always there. And I've been so blessed in my own life. I have need for nothing or want for nothing. And so I'm using all of the proceeds for the book to go to God Cares School in Uganda.
Wonderful.
Eric he went on a mission trip with our church when he was a senior over his spring break, and the group would go like every year. So this school knew the kids, and we knew the pastors. Our pastors knew their pastor that started the school. And so he actually played basketball with some of these little guys, and we have video of him doing that. And so when I was thinking about publishing the book, I thought, well, what do I want to do with the proceeds? And I thought of that right away. Since I was a teacher and Eric had actually been to this school, I thought this would be a great place to give the money. And in Uganda, they've had so much civil war, and the AIDS and HIV has taken off so many of the adult population. I think 80% of their population is like under 14 years old. And so they have all these kids in this country that are orphaned. And so this is one of the schools that they have dormitories for nursery school kids all the way up through high school. And then they're also placing them in colleges, and they're raising up this new generation of students, giving women, or the girls especially, this opportunity to have an education and break the cycle of poverty and, just really
Wow.
difficult situations of living, and just to raise up this new generation that knows God and will be the future leaders to lead them out of this, hopefully. So most of the money goes there. And then part of the money also is going to the American Humane Association. I
Okay.
wanted to honor Remi as well, for his animal buddies who need help as well. So that's where the proceeds go for the book. And so
Okay. I mean, I've learned, you and I spent quite a bit of time talking, before, a couple weeks ago, and I've learned so much, and you are just such a gift. You are such an inspiration to people.
Mhm.
First of all, with just the way you see the world, with the words that you write, just with your heart. You have incredible leadership. You have such empathy, and God's clearly using you, Cindy. And I wish people could just see you, because you're so energetic. You're so fun. You're so inspiring.
Oh,
And I
thank
think you are. And I think what's so great too, this book just gives people hope. I mean, God speaks to all of us differently. And I
Yes.
think for someone that just needs that inspiration, just, pick up a book and read and look at a photo and or watch the video, and
Mhm.
the proceeds are all going to such a wonderful cause. And that is so inspiring. I mean, you're such a great inspiration for women, you know,
Yes.
who are, and we're never too old to do these things, those dreams. And I
No.
love what you said, that what scares you the most is what you should do first.
Yeah.
And, and you took this. I remember, like I said, sitting in the stands talking about this, and to see this actually be published and now selling it is just, it's so exciting for me to see that.
It is. It's exciting to see it happening as well. And it's fun. And I appreciate people like you too, Terry, that
Mm,
allow me to speak about it and to get the word out to other people. And, it's a great book also for people who know people who are, wrestling with their faith or just not sure about their faith. And it's, the cover has Remi on it. And so
yeah.
it's a book that draws people in. Dog lovers would be
Yep.
drawn to a book like this if they aren't, used to picking up a devotional, or nature lovers, people who love
Right.
gardening or plants or walks. Um, it's drawn different people to an exposure to faith, and a lot of my friends have gifted the book to friends who are going through difficult times,
Yeah.
that have found it very comforting and peaceful, and something that they can understand. It's easy
Right.
to, the lessons are very simple,
Yep.
applications are easy, and it's pretty clear illustrations. And a lot of people will look at it and it's meant to be a devotional that you read like one a day, but
Yeah.
people like to just turn the page because they say, well, I wanted to see, well, what's she going to say about this photo?
Yeah. And it's a great shape too. It's a square. You can put it on your coffee table. So I'm really doing a plug for this because I love the book
Oh,
and I
thank
love you. So it's awesome. Um, and then next, so you've got these other books, the children's, which really was your passion. That's
Yes.
so interesting to me too, how writing goes, because you always have this book that you really want to bring forward in the world, but it's almost like it's too scary. So we do these other things first.
Yeah.
But I know that's always been your passion. So we will look forward to that as well when your children's mystery books
Yeah.
launch into the world.
Thank you. It'll be
Um,
exciting too.
so I want everybody to follow you. I'll put all your information, like I said, in the show notes where they can find you on Facebook, Instagram, and some of these links for people that are interested in probably, trying to write a book or whatever. So, and not to be afraid. We're midlife. We can still do all these things. We still have a lot to offer the world. And are there any closing comments? You've just been so amazing. I've enjoyed this. I've learned so much from you. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Thanks, Terry. Well, I was just, again, saying that we've been given so many talents and gifts.
Mm,
And as we transition to this new stage of our life, to look at it as finding our ways now to use those in a new way, try to find ways to reinvent yourself and to be open
mm,
to the new possibilities that come. It's a great time to learn a new hobby or to join a new kind of a group that you've always been interested in, but you never had time to, to do because you were busy with your family. So now is the time to help enrich yourself and to be a service to your community and to other people. A lot of times now we do have time to reach out to others and to be a good friend and to go to lunches and reach out to older people that, might be alone as well, and spend some time with them or find ways to help, other people in the town or different missions in the town. Get involved in cultural events. It's just such an enriching part of a person's life, I find. Are the arts, and it keeps people, gives you someplace to go, it gives you someplace to go, it gives you something to think about, something to enjoy. So just get out there and try some new things and find ways to use the talents you've got in new ways.
Wonderful. Well, I love it. Thank you again. Thank you so much for being here. I think you need to go on a speaking tour. You have so much to say and great things to share that are so inspiring for women. So thank you so much. I look forward to launching this podcast. Happy Easter to everyone. And thank you again, Cindy, for sharing your heart, your passion, just who you are, and your writing. Thank you for sharing that with the world.
You're welcome, Terry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you feel inspired and encouraged. I also hope you feel motivated to step forward and start that thing you've been wanting to start. Whether that's writing a book, starting a podcast, starting a hobby, traveling, painting, whatever that is, I hope you realize that it's never too late to pursue those dreams that are deep inside of you. Cindy is so inspiring, and she makes us all realize that there's possibility in all these new things as we step forward into this new season of life. Know that you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, and you belong. Have an amazing day. Happy Easter.